WWE is reportedly interested in signing longtime New Japan Pro Wrestling star TAMA TONGA. We got the details behind WWE's interest in the New Japan star. Vince McMahon is back in WWE, but was he backstage at SmackDown on Friday? Speaking of SmackDown, was also William Regal backstage now that he's back with WWE? The Viking Raiders attack Drew McIntyre and SHEAMUS after SmackDown goes off the air. Bayley celebrates 10 years with the WWE. Raw, Alexa Bliss is going to explain her actions from last week's episode. And Pretty Deadly are on the road with WWE for the live events this weekend. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of World Wrestling Entertainment. And let's start off talking about, yes, WWE signing more people. Triple H being interested in signing more people. And WWE is interested in another New Japan Pro Wrestling talent. This comes off the back of reports that WWE is interested in signing Hikuleo. But also, they're also interested in signing another big star from the Bushiroad company. WWE, according to Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, has an interest in a long-time New Japan Pro Wrestling talent, and his situation is quite ironic considering he just faced a WWE superstar. Now, Fightful Select is reporting that they have learned that WWE has internally expressed interest in TAMA TONGA. Now, whilst Fightful were told that the interest in possibly bringing in Tonga isn't new, word travelled through the New Japan locker room ahead of Wrestle Kingdom 17 and made its way to Fightful, hence it being reported now. Ironically enough, TAMA TONGA faced WWE superstar and never openweight champion Carl Anderson at Wrestle Kingdom 17, winning the championship, and we could find a situation whereby, a bit like with Anderson, TAMA TONGA signs with WWE. Now, Tonga, it's not the first time he's had offers from WWE. He had an offer about 7 years ago. He's currently 40 now. He had an offer 7 years ago, which he turned down in order to team with his brother Tangaloa in New Japan Pro Wrestling. The two have remained in New Japan ever since, while several of their former Bullet Club stablemates made the jump to World Wrestling Entertainment. Subsequently, New Japan sources have claimed that TAMA TONGA's New Japan contract is up in a matter of weeks, hence the interest. This isn't a situation whereby WWE is like, we've got a long-standing interest. When his contract comes up later this year, next year, or the year after, we might be interested. It's a case of TAMA TONGA's got a decision to make pretty much right now. His contract is up in a matter of weeks. When that is, we don't know. We don't have specific dates, but WWE is actively circling TAMA TONGA right now. Fightful reported previously, earlier on in the week, that WWE did have interest in TAMA TONGA's brother Hikuleo too. While much of Tonga's work is done in Japan, he's wrestled for Impact Wrestling, Ring of Honor, and New Japan Strong in the United States too. So it's possible. I mean, we could be looking at a situation realistically where WWE looks to bring in both TAMA TONGA and Hikuleo into WWE, and possibly with the news that AJ Styles has gone down with a broken ankle injury, this could be WWE's way of expanding the OC. Of course, these were all members of the Bullet Club. You could have a situation that whilst AJ Styles is out of the ring anyway, he still could stay on WWE television, I suppose, with his broken ankle. But whilst AJ Styles is out of the ring, we could have a situation whereby the OC, including Luke Gallows, Carl Anderson, TAMA TONGA, Hikuleo, all are in WWE on Monday Night Raw, led by AJ Styles. That certainly would be a group that could rival the Bloodline on SmackDown and could lead possibly to a future kind of war game scenario in the future. Now, that's plenty of times away, and I think by November, the Bloodline might be looking very, very different, particularly with the departure of Sami Zayn at some point in the near future. But nevertheless, could we see really the majority of the original, not everyone, but the original Bullet Club faction within WWE? Carl Anderson, of course, Finn Balor's on the roster. What could we see? I mean, who's to say, actually, that if TAMA TONGA and Hikuleo came in, they would go into the OC? Why wouldn't they go into the Judgment Day? I think going into the OC would make more sense. That's WWE's version of the Bullet Club, even though before they've tried to do it with Finn Balor as of Balor Club, but certainly the OC is that version. It's the original club. That's what it stands for. So whether or not he decides to go to WWE will be interesting. Again, the next couple of weeks are going to be really, really, really interesting when it pertains to this. I mean, Historically, a lot of the New Japan contracts do expire around this time of the year. That's why the likes of Luke Gallows and Kyle Anderson signed with WWE back in 2016. Same with AJ Styles, same with Shinsuke Nakamura. It's always around this time of the year that we have big contract news when it comes to New Japan Pro Wrestling. So keep an eye out for this one, I would say. Triple H, despite all of the backstage stuff going on, I'm not even backstage, the executive stuff going on in WWE right now, he's still steadfast in his role. So whilst he's still steadfast in his position as the head of talent relations, as the chief creative officer, he's going to continue as business as usual. So being that business as usual for Triple H is signing talent and expanding the roster. So part of that expansion, I guess, is an interest in signing TAMA TONGA. Of course, if we get any more information, any more updates, we'll let you know here on the channel. Now, speaking of this backstage shakeup, speaking of this executive shakeup, Vince McMahon, of course, is now back in the company that he founded, and just 6 days into the new year, and we already have what will end up as one of the biggest stories of 2023. That being, of course, Vince McMahon is back in WWE, returning to the board of directors on January 6th, alongside George Barrios and Michelle Wilson. McMahon returned to the company to oversee future television rights deals and an eventual sale of the company, or at the very least, an exploration of strategic alternatives, which is basically exploring what entities, what companies, what organizations would be interested in purchasing World Wrestling Entertainment, and at what price point, what kind of package they would be willing to offer. We did a video yesterday breaking down the majority of the interested parties. Be sure to check that out. With this being Vince McMahon, fans have questioned whether or not his return would result in him regaining more control of the company's on-screen product. However, day-to-day operations in WWE will remain unchanged for now, as WWE told their employees in a meeting on Friday. Fightful Select Sean Ross Sapp provided backstage updates on this past week's SmackDown show and what, if any, involvement Vince McMahon had on the show. Per the report, Vince McMahon was not present during the Blue Brand show on Fox following his return to the company. We are going to talk about one person who was present at the show in just a second, but it wasn't, I don't think, expected that Vince McMahon was going to be backstage at SmackDown on Friday. I mean, you never, thing is, because it's Vince McMahon, you just never know. I was half waiting, honestly, on Friday. And I will half wait this week, particularly as we head to Friday, of the random announcement, Vince McMahon will appear on SmackDown. I'm waiting for it. I don't necessarily think it will happen, but at the same time, when those allegations first got put out into the public forum back in June of last year, I didn't expect them to announce that Vince McMahon was going to appear on SmackDown then. And then he did his weird, bizarre appearances on SmackDown and Raw over the several weeks, trying to, I guess, send some kind of veiled threat that he was still in control of the product. And if he's in control of the media, of the output, then he's still in control. I mean, even before he retired, they had that weird segment with Titus O'Neil going out there and talking about how WWE is about putting smiles on people's faces. It was very bizarre. The Vince McMahon actions, I mean, in general, are bizarre, but it was very bizarre. So don't rule it out. Whilst Triple H is head of creative, he'd probably veto that, but how long is he going to be head of creative for? That's the big question. Now, one person who was backstage at SmackDown on Friday was William Regal. William Regal, of course, is back with WWE following his exit from All Elite Wrestling. William Regal's WWE return was one last rollercoaster news story, really, in 2022, doesn't it? That just shows how quickly everything changes in pro wrestling. William Regal's departure felt like such a big story. There was so much confusion and, you know, ambiguity surrounding it and all that kind of stuff. And now it just feels like yesterday's news. Vince McMahon's the big story right now. It's crazy. I mean, before that, Mercedes Moné, you know, it's constant, isn't it, the world of pro wrestling. Now, he left All Elite Wrestling after 10 months to return to WWE following the change in regime last July, which saw Triple H gain creative control in the company. Regal, of course, portrayed AEW World Champion Jon Moxley at Full Gear, allowing MJF to win the AEW World Championship in the main event of the show. Regal then revealed that he portrayed Moxley in order to teach one final lesson to the Blackpool Combat Club before riding off into the sunset. Regal officially restarted with World Wrestling Entertainment in the new year, with him signing on as an executive in the company. Regal, as part of his departure from AEW, is unable to appear as an on-screen character in WWE for the entirety of 2023 due to the terms agreed upon for his AEW departure, but he is still set to be a backstage presence. Per Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, William Regal was indeed present backstage on Friday's SmackDown show in Memphis, his first WWE show since he was fired by the company last January. Now, there has been some discussion about William Regal's status in the company, considering he's now in at an executive level But now so is Vince McMahon because he's the executive chairman of the company. Now, I don't think necessarily that Vince McMahon has a beef, particularly with William Regal. When you look back at what happened this time last year, when all of those people were let go, William Regal, Samoa Joe, Gabe Sapolsky, all of those people that were let go at the time, Brian James, Road Dogg, it was because Vince McMahon saw that as being Triple H's team. It was Triple H's team. He wasn't happy with what had happened with NXT in the Wednesday Night Wars. He wanted to just completely change NXT and move it in a different direction, take it back to developmental. And also, I'm sure there was a bit of politicking involved because he thought, well, I don't want Triple H to have his team ready to go. And now Triple H does have partially his team in the main roster, or certainly in the executive positions in the company. Could William Regal's job be under jeopardy because Vince McMahon's back? I don't know. I'm sure he has those same questions. I'm not sure. But as I've said about the whole Vince McMahon thing, my feeling is that we've just got started. We've just got started when it comes to all of this. And of course, if more details come out, we will discuss them at length here at WrestleNews 365. Speaking of SmackDown, an angle happened after the show went off the air. Drew McIntyre and Sheamus, of course, lost the main event on the January 6th episode of SmackDown, but their night went from bad to worse after the show. On Friday night, McIntyre and Sheamus challenged the Usos for the undisputed WWE Tag Team Championships. The match broke down into chaos due to the interference of Solo Sikoa, who was answered by the arrival of Butch and Ridge Holland. In the end, the Usos stole the victory with a sneaky pin. After the show went off the air, the Viking Raiders came to the ring and laid McIntyre and Sheamus out with a seemingly unprompted attack. They brutalized the former world champions and left them lying while Valhalla looked on from ringside. As of this recording, the Viking Raiders have not wrestled since the December 16 episode of SmackDown. They lost a number one contenders triple threat match in which Hit Row scored the victory over Eric and Ivar and Legado del Fantasma. Will this be leading to a match next week or at some point in the future? Most likely, considering the fact they actually posted this on social media. Clearly they're building to something. What it is right now, we still don't know finally. Bayley has been with the company for 10 years. Wow. WWE Monday Night Raw superstar Bayley has been part of many memorable moments during her WWE career, from her iconic match with Sasha Banks at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn, to the Golden Role Models, to Damage Control. Bayley has found a lot of success within the company. Bayley took to Twitter yesterday on January 7 to celebrate her 10-year anniversary as part of WWE, and noting that she is not done just yet. She said, quote, "Today marks 10 years I've officially been a part of WWE. A decade. Grateful, proud, not done. Thank you." Bayley, alongside the rest of Damage Control, are currently locked in a feud with Becky Lynch on Raw after taking her out on the Raw after SummerSlam last year. Of course, Bayley this past week was recently in Japan alongside Naomi to support Sasha Banks, now known as Mercedes Moné, ahead of her New Japan Pro Wrestling debut at Wrestle Kingdom 17 on January 4. So congratulations to Bayley on 10 years with World Wrestling Entertainment. This coming Monday on Raw, Alexa Bliss will explain her actions, which seemingly have been talked about ad nauseum over the past week after she snapped once again after some Bray Wyatt and Uncle Howdy imagery. A segment featuring Alexa Bliss has been announced for the January 9th edition of Monday Night Raw, following her recent Raw Women's Championship match. During the January 9 edition of SmackDown, it was announced that Bliss will appear on Monday's show to address her actions from the previous episode. On the January 2nd episode of Raw, Bliss and Bianca Belair faced off with the Raw Women's Championship on the line. During the match, Bray Wyatt's logo appeared on the screen, prompting Bliss to go on a rampage, assaulting the referee and brutalizing Belair. Bliss left Belair unconscious at ringside after nailing the champion with 2 DDTs on the steel ring steps. Since Bray Wyatt's return in October, there have been several teases that Bliss will eventually reunite with the SmackDown superstar. Wyatt is currently feuding with LA Knight, with the mysterious Uncle Howdy lurking in the background, fueling speculation about a potential reveal. Some have speculated it could be Bray Wyatt's real-life brother, Bo Dallas. Wyatt will face Knight in a pitch black match at the Royal Rumble on January 28th. A match that we still don't really know a lot about. A match that could eventually involve Alexa Bliss reuniting with the aforementioned Bray Wyatt. We still haven't seen The Fiend, of course, the person that Alexa Bliss betrayed back at WrestleMania 37, but all roads seemingly lead to a reunion between Bliss and Wyatt. Finally, NXT's tag team superstars Pretty Deadly have a busy weekend. 2 NXT stars are set to make their main roster debuts at the upcoming live events next week. SmackDown stars The New Day won the NXT Tag Team Championships back at the NXT Deadline event on December 10, dethroning former champions Pretty Deadly. Pretty Deadly in the weeks since have attempted to get the attention of The New Day for a rematch, with them set to take part in a gauntlet match on next week's New Year's Evil show. Well, it seems as though the feud between the two teams could spill over to the main roster, as Pretty Deadly are set to be on the road with the company this weekend. Per PW Insider, Kip Wilson and Elton Prince are set to make their WWE live event debuts this weekend at the shows in Jackson, Mississippi and Huntsville, Alabama. It's not yet been announced who they'll be facing, but it would make sense. It would make the most sense, certainly, for them to be facing The New Day, possibly for the NXT Tag Team Championships. Kofi and Xavier Woods have been pulling double duty on SmackDown and NXT, with Kingston losing to Santos Escobar on this week's edition of SmackDown on Fox. Meanwhile, Kofi was the first person to be announced for the 2023 Men's Royal Rumble match, with Ricochet joining him in the match after a victory on SmackDown this week. We expect more stars to be announced or declare their entry. I can do it now. I declare my entry for the 2023 Men's Royal Rumble match. I don't think I'll win, though, and I don't think I'll get that spot. But there you go, guys. That's the latest WWE news for you today. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe bottom right-hand corner. Let me know your thoughts on today's WWE news stories in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.